Welcome to chapter 35 of the book of Genesis. Jacob builds an altar at Bethel. I'll read a little in the Greek and we'll go through the chapter. Ipe δε ο Θεός προς Ιακώβ, Αναστάς, ανάβηθη εις τον τόπον Βαιθήλ, και οίκη εκεί, και ποιήσον εκεί θυσιαστήριον το Θεό, το οφθέντη σοι, in to apodedraskin apo prosopu isav to adelphu su. And God said to Jacob, Rise up, ascend unto the place of Bethel, and live there. Let's go to our map, and we see that he was in Shechem. Now he's going down here to Bethel to build the altar. And make there an altar to the God appearing to you in the running away from the face of Esau, your brother. And that was when he was going up to Haran. He also saw God when he was coming back from Haran before he got down to Canaan when he wrestled with God. But so the two places shouldn't be confusing, but it is. And verse 2, it begins, and Jacob said to his house, to household, that's a figure of speech. He's not talking to a building, but the people. And to all the ones with him, take away the alien gods from out of your midst, and you should cleanse and you change your robes. And rising, and so basically, God is speaking to him to what he should do. And so I believe he knows that many of the people have idols, mainly from Laban. Rachel took Laban's idols, if you remember. And so other people had these idols. And Jacob now does not want them to be idolaters, but to be believers, followers of a monotheistic God, the Creator God. In verse 3, in rising up, we should ascend unto Bethel, and we should make there an altar to God, taking heed to the God, taking heed of me in a day of affliction, who was with me and preserved me in the way which I went. And they gave to Jacob the alien gods, which were in their hands, and the earrings in their ears. Now, how the earrings tied into gods, maybe something like pendants. Think of the Star of David is a pendant for many people. A crucifix is a pendant to many people, and a crescent is a pendant to many Muslims. Some people bow down to these pendants, and they become thus idols. And Jacob hid them under the terebinthon in Shechem, a terebinth tree. You can add that to your English derivatives. Book, it's a transliteration, terebinthon to terebinth. And he destroyed them unto today's day. Now, what was today's day is probably written by Moses, so it could have been hundreds of years later, and they still knew where this tree was. And Israel lifted away from out of Shechem, where I showed you on the map, and there was a fear of God upon the cities round about them, and they did not pursue after the sons of Israel. And they knew what these men were capable of doing, as they did to Shechem, destroying the city and killing Hamor and his son Shechem. In verse 6, and Jacob came into Luzah, and Luz in the King James, which is in the land of Canaan, which is Bethel. So this is what it was called earlier. And he and all the people which was with him. And he built there an altar and called the name of the place Bethel. For there God appeared to him in his running away from the face of Esau his brother. And Deborah, the nurse of Rebekah, died, and they entombed her in Lower Bethel. This is the only place it mentions this person, a nurse of Rebekah. And they entombed her in the Lower Bethel up under the acorn tree. And Jacob called the name of it Valanos Penthus, acorn tree of mourning. And God appeared to Jacob again in Luz, Bethel, when he came from out of Mesopotamia of Syria. Now, when he's coming from out of Mesopotamia, it means when he was returning, I suppose, that he went through Bethel. And God blessed him, and God said to him, "Your name shall not be called any longer Yaakov, but Israel will be your name." Now, when he came back, that was all in chapter 32. The place was called Peniel, where he wrestled with God, and God changed his name there. And so he's recounting it here. And he called his name Israel. And God said to him, "I am your God, grow and multiply." Now, when was this now? As he's speaking, or was it earlier? Nations and gatherings of nations will be from out of you, and kings shall come forth from out of your loin. Now, who is he talking about here? I see first the tribes, the 12 tribes or nations of sorts, and then we have the nation of Israel, which is made up of Judah in the south and Israel on the top. It splits, becomes two nations and two kings. But then, further on down, we have the time of Jesus, and after Jesus' resurrection, many Christian nations arising with kings that are believers in Yahweh. In verse 12, "And the land which I gave Abraham and Isaac, I give it to you, and to your seed after you I shall give this land, a land of Canaan." And God ascended from him, and actually more all the way up to the Euphrates River and to the Nile. And God ascended from him from out of the place of which he spoke with him. And Jacob set up a monument in the place in which God spoke with him, a stone monument. And he offered upon it a libation, which is liquid, and poured it upon olive oil on the stone. And Jacob called the name of the place in which God spoke with him there Bethel. Now it changes into a different story, and Jacob departed from out of Bethel, and he pitched his tent beyond the tower of Gader, wherever that was. And it came to pass when he approached Havrathah to come into Ephrathah, Rachel bore. And in the giving birth, she suffered birth pangs. And it came to pass in her harshly bearing, the midwife said to her, "Be of courage, for also this is a son to you." First, and so there'll be the second son. And it came to pass in her, she had Joshua, and it came to pass in her letting go the soul, for she was dying, she called his name, son of my grief, but the father called his name Benjamin. And so Rachel had died in childbirth, as many women were doing without adequate medical facilities and so forth. And Rachel died and was entombed in the way of Ephrathah. This is Bethlehem. These are places that are in the West Bank today under the Palestinian Authority. Now, Rachel was not in the lineage of David, or Jesus. Now, a lot of people, when you read it, I've thought for years somehow that Rachel was tied in to Jesus because of her name and being in Bethlehem. But she's tied into the place of Bethlehem for sure because that's where she was buried. But it mentions this strangely in Jeremiah, the prophet, 31:15. It says, a voice in Ramah, which was close to this area, was heard. And Ramah was where Samuel lived, the prophet. A voice in Ramah was heard, wailing and weeping and grieving, Rachel weeping for her sons, and she did not want to be comforted, for they are not. Now that was quoted in Matthew 2:18, where it says, a voice in Ramah was heard, wailing and weeping and much grieving. It adds the much. Rachel weeping over her, doesn't say sons, but children in the New Testament, interesting. And she wanted not to be comforted, for they are not. And this was in Matthew because of the Magi not coming back and telling Herod what they found, and Herod killing all the young males under 3 years old around Bethlehem. So this is Rachel weeping. It was because Bethlehem is where this happened, and Rachel was dead for 1,000 years, I guess. In verse 20, it continues, and Jacob set up a monument for her memorial. This is the monument upon the tomb of Rachel until this day. So apparently, even probably when Moses and the children of Israel went back into Canaan, they found it. And it came to pass, when Israel dwelt in that land, Reuben went, and that was the firstborn from Leah, and bedded with Valas, or Bilhah, the concubine of his father Jacob. Now Bilhah, if you remember, was Rachel's handmaid. Rachel couldn't bear, so she gave Bilhah to Jacob to have children, and she bore Dan and Naphtali. Now Reuben was a half brother. He would have been a stepson to Bilhah, because his mother, or Reuben's mother, Leah, was a sister of Rachel, and Rachel gave the concubine to Jacob. It sounds kind of confusing, but it is what it is. And Israel, as Jacob heard, and they call him Israel, here's the first place I think that they use the person of Jacob and actually use his name outside of God saying what his name was. Israel heard. Now, I don't think it was the people, but could have been. And it appeared wicked before him, so the him wouldn't make it plural. And the sons of Jacob were 12. The sons of Leah, Reuben, the firstborn of Jacob. He's the one who went to bed with Bilhah. And Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. And the sons of Rachel, Joseph and Benjamin. And the sons of Bilhah, the maidservant of Rachel, Dan and Naphtali. And the sons of Zilpah, the maidservant of Leah, Gad and Asher. These are the sons of Jacob born to him in Mesopotamia of Syria. The only one would have been Benjamin, wasn't. And Jacob came to Isaac his father in Mamre, in a city of the plain. This is Hebron. So now Jacob has returned, and now he is going to see his father after he returns And he's going to what's now called Hebron, which is in the West Bank also, the land of Canaan, where Abraham and Isaac sojourned, and were the days of Isaac, which he lived 180 years. And failing, Isaac died, and he was added to his family, older and full of days, and Esau and Jacob, his two sons, entombed him. They were together and they entombed their father. That's the end of Isaac. Now we're into the time of Jacob, as we have been. The next video seminar is on the generations of Esau. I hope you join us. Till then, God bless.